There's an old, cruel joke whispered in the back rooms of forgotten sanatoriums, a piece of exhausted gossip passed between men who've seen too much of the world's machinery. It goes something like this. The devil doesn't purchase souls with contracts and brimstone anymore. He's far too sophisticated for that. Now, he just gives a man a smartphone and a quiet, gnawing anxiety. And then he sits back and watches him trade his soul, piece by piece, for a flicker of validation from a woman who doesn't even know his middle name. He watches him perform, dance, and bleed for an audience of ghosts. And the punchline? The man thinks it was his idea all along. Have you ever felt it? That strange hollow ache after you've won. After she's laughed at your perfectly crafted joke, after she's replied to your message, after she's granted you the warmth of her attention for a fleeting evening. You should feel victorious, a conquering hero returning with spoils. Instead, a silence descends, deeper than the one that came before. In that silence, a single, terrifying question begins to sprout like a black fungus in a damp cellar. Now what? The performance is over. The curtain has fallen, and you are alone with the machinery of the stage, the cheap props, the smell of sweat and desperation. The applause has faded, and the hunger remains. This is the first and most painful truth, the one we build our entire lives trying to deny. You are not a lover, not a suitor, not a poet. You are a hunger artist. Remember Kafka's grotesque little parable, The Man Who Fasted in a Cage for Public Amusement? The crowds would gather, mesmerized by his commitment to emptiness. They admired his discipline, his skeletal frame, his profound dedication to withering away. He mistook their morbid curiosity for admiration, their pity for respect. He was a celebrity of self-negation. And his deepest, most secret sorrow wasn't the hunger itself. He could bear that. It was that no one, not even the most ardent spectator, could ever truly appreciate the artistry of his starvation. They could never understand how easy it was for him because he simply couldn't find any food that he liked. Does that sound familiar? You have curated yourself into a magnificent performance of want. Your wit, your ambition, your carefully chosen clothes, your casual displays of strength, it is all an elaborate cage. And inside you are starving. You tell yourself you are fasting for a specific prize, her approval, her desire, her love. You convince yourself that once you have it, you will finally eat. But this is the lie that rots the floorboards of the soul. You are not fasting for her. You are fasting because you have forgotten how to nourish yourself. You have convinced yourself that the only food worth eating is the applause that comes from her hands. It's a sickness of the modern male psyche, this pathological need to be chosen. We're told it's the grand prize. Yet a 2024 study tucked away in a dusty psychological journal, one of those bleak European publications that smells of rain and existential dread, spoke of contingent self-esteem in online dating. It found that a man's sense of self-worth became so deeply entangled with the feedback of his romantic pursuits that he could no longer distinguish between his authentic self and the character he was playing. He was a ghost haunting his own profile, a digital echo begging for a sign that it was real. He wasn't building a connection. He was running a perpetual focus group on his own soul. This is the confidence switch you see. It is not an act of puffing your chest out or learning some sequence of clever lines. That is just learning to be a better paid clown in the same sad circus. The real switch, the one that flips with a terrifying silent finality, is the moment you tear down the cage. It's the moment you look at the audience, at her with her beautiful, expectant face, and you feel nothing. Not anger, not spite, but a profound and chilling indifference to the applause. It is the moment you realize that true power isn't in making her want you. It is in wanting yourself so completely that her opinion of you becomes irrelevant background noise, like the distant sound of traffic on a humid summer evening. This isn't an act. It cannot be faked. It is a fundamental rewiring of the soul. It is the hunger artist, after the crowds have gone home, finally finding a simple piece of bread and a glass of water, and discovering in that plain, unapplauded meal a satisfaction so deep, so absolute, that the memory of the crowd's roar becomes a pathetic, tinny sound. This state is what women, what people find so unnerving and so magnetic. They are accustomed to the dance, to the performance. They know the steps. When they encounter a man who is not dancing, a man who is simply standing still in his own sovereign space, they don't know the protocol. Their power, the power of bestowing or withholding validation, is rendered inert. It's like trying to bribe a king who already owns the entire world. What can you possibly offer him? He generates his own nourishment. He is the source of his own light. Her presence becomes a welcome addition to his world, not the center of it. And this is what terrifies them. This is what makes them fear losing you, because they sense on a primal, intuitive level that you don't actually need them to stay. So, here is my question for you. Whispered from one performer to another in the stale air behind the curtain. Look around you at the life you have so carefully constructed. What cage have you built for yourself? And whose applause are you starving for tonight, little artist? You become a haunting presence not by chasing, but by disappearing into your own world. Imagine a man made of wet clay, constantly being shaped by the hands of a lover. Her approval warms him, making him pliable. Her disappointment is a cold thumb pressing an indentation into his brow. Her desires are the tools that carve his smile, his posture, his ambitions. He is a collaborative project. He is never finished, and he is never entirely his own. Now imagine he decides, one day, to simply walk into the kiln. He exposes himself not to her warmth, but to the solitary, alchemical fire of his own purpose. He bakes himself solid. The clay hardens into something permanent, impervious, and complete. What happens to her then? She is left with her hands empty, covered in the phantom residue of clay. In her mind, the sculpture is not gone. It's still there. But it has stopped responding. It has become a statue. And a statue, you see, is a very difficult thing to forget. It doesn't plead or bargain. It simply is. It haunts the garden of her memory, not with its screams, but with its silence. This is the second truth, the one that feels like a violation of the laws of romantic physics. We are taught that love is a function of proximity, of effort, of constant attentive presence. We are told to show up, to make our case, to be the most colorful, loudest bird in the forest. And so we chase. Oh God, how we chase. We send the extra message. We contrive reasons to cross her path. We become tireless petitioners at the court of her attention. And in doing so, we commit the cardinal sin. We reveal that our own world is not compelling enough to hold us. We prove with every desperate act that our kingdom is empty, and we are looking for a queen to fill its silent halls. The great Swiss alchemist of the mind, Carl Jung, spoke of this in whispers and symbols. He knew that when we fall for someone, we are not merely seeing them. We are projecting a part of our own soul onto them, a golden, idealized image he called the anima. She, in turn, projects her own corresponding image onto you. You become the screen for her secret movie, the vessel for her unlived dreams. And the chaser, the needy man, spends his life trying to conform to this projection. He is a frantic actor trying to guess his lines, terrified the audience will walk out. The dangerous confidence switch is this. You stop auditioning for the part. You consciously, deliberately withdraw your energy from her screen and redirect it back into your own projector. You turn your focus from being seen by her to seeing your own path. You become obsessed not with the map of her heart, but with the uncharted territory of your own potential. You go to the gym not to sculpt a body she will desire, but to forge a vessel of discipline for your own will. You read the difficult book not to have a clever opinion to share, but to furnish the lonely rooms of your own mind. You build your business, your art, your craft with the monastic focus of a man who has forgotten he is even being watched. And a strange thing happens. The projection on her screen doesn't just vanish, it flickers, it glitches, it decouples from you, the living, breathing man, and takes on a life of its own. It becomes a ghost. A perfect, idealized, and most importantly, uncontrollable version of you that lives in the operating system of her psyche. In old, damp corners of Ireland and Scotland, they spoke of the fetch, a spectral double of a living person. Seeing your own fetch was a terrible omen, a sign that your end was near. In this modern mythology, the principle is inverted. When you disappear into your work, into yourself, you are willingly killing the needy, pliable clay man she knew. And in his place, you send a fetch to haunt her. This ghost is you, but better. It is you without the anxiety, you without the need for approval. It is the man she thought you could be, now frozen in time, rendered potent by your absence. When she goes on a date with a new man, a safe man, a predictable man who is still made of wet clay, the ghost of you will be sitting at the table with them. His silence will be more interesting than the new man's stories. His imagined judgment will be more powerful than the new man's compliments. She may even grow to resent this ghost. She will try to exorcise it, to replace it with a real tangible presence. But she can't, because the ghost is not sustained by you anymore. It is sustained by her own imagination, fueled by the very real, observable evidence that you are building a world without her. Your success becomes its own eerie message. Your silence becomes its own kind of poetry. You are not ignoring her. You are simply otherwise engaged with reality. The gravitational pull of a man building an empire, even if that empire is just the quiet, unshakable sovereignty over his own mind, is infinitely stronger than the frantic pushing of a man trying to win a girl. It's the difference between a firefly and a star. One flashes desperately for attention in the dark, beautiful but frantic and fleeting. The other hangs in the abyss, silent, massive, and pulls entire worlds into its orbit through the sheer, undeniable force of its own being. It does not chase, it attracts. So let me ask you this, not as a challenge, but as a quiet philosophical invitation. Look at all the energy you spend, the hours you burn, trying to be present in her world, trying to be remembered. What if the most powerful thing you could do is become a beautiful, unreachable memory in your own lifetime? Authenticity, stripped bare and unapologetic, is the most terrifyingly attractive force. We are all curators, meticulously arranging the exhibits in the museum of our self-presentation. We polish the trophies of our achievements, dim the lights on our failures, and carefully angle the mirrors to reflect only the most flattering angles. We believe that if we can just assemble the perfect collection of traits, the flawless facade, then love, acceptance, and belonging will inevitably follow, like eager tourists lining up to pay their respects. And what a tiresome, soul-crushing endeavor it is to constantly monitor, edit, and censor the messy, unpredictable truth of our inner landscape. We become expert ventriloquists, throwing our voices through a series of carefully constructed masks: the witty intellectual, the rugged adventurer, the sensitive soul, each one designed to elicit a specific response, to fill a perceived void in the other person, to finally earn us a ticket to their heart. But have you ever noticed the faint scent of dust and decay that hangs in the air of such museums? The unsettling stillness of objects frozen in time, divorced from their living context. The longer you curate, the more distant you become from the raw, vital energy of your true self. The masks, initially intended as tools of connection, become prisons. You forget who you are beneath them. And in the hollow echo chamber of your perfectly presented life, a chilling loneliness begins to take root. Consider the old folktale of the shapeshifter, the creature that could mimic any form it desired. Feared and often hunted, it spent its existence trying to blend in, to become what others wanted it to be. It could be a charming lover one night, a loyal friend the next, a formidable adversary when threatened. But it never had a true form of its own. Its very essence was mimicry, and in the quiet moments when no one was watching, it would feel a profound and agonizing emptiness, a longing for a self it had never allowed to exist. We, too, become shapeshifters in the landscape of modern romance. We scroll through profiles, absorbing the desired archetypes, the trending hobbies, the approved opinions. We tailor our narratives, prune our quirks, and sand down our edges until we are smooth, agreeable, and utterly forgettable. We become a collection of carefully chosen filters, obscuring the very thing that might make us truly captivating: our flaws, our contradictions, our unfiltered, unapologetic being. Think about it. What is the most memorable character in any story? Is it the perfectly virtuous hero, the flawlessly beautiful maiden? No, it is the flawed anti-hero, the character with sharp edges and unexpected vulnerabilities, the one who doesn't quite fit the mold. It is the gargoyle perched on the cathedral, not the perfectly symmetrical stone. A 2025 meta-analysis of online dating behaviors, buried deep within an academic database smelling faintly of stale coffee and regret, suggested a curious correlation. While carefully curated profiles initially attracted more superficial attention, the relationships that lasted, the ones that fostered genuine intimacy, often began with a degree of raw, even awkward authenticity. People were drawn not to the polished performance, but to the glimpses of the messy, imperfect human beneath. They were seeking connection, not perfection. And connection, by its very nature, requires vulnerability, the willingness to show the cracks in our carefully constructed facade. The dangerous confidence switch here is not about finding the perfect mask to wear. It is about having the courage to take off all the masks, one by one, until you are standing bare, vulnerable, and perhaps a little bit grotesque, in the flickering candlelight of your own truth. This is terrifying, of course. What if they don't like what they see? What if the real you is deemed unworthy, unlovable? This fear is the locksmith that keeps us chained to our curated selves. But consider the alternative: a lifetime spent performing for an audience that can never truly know you, a love built on a foundation of carefully constructed lies. Is that not a far more terrifying prospect? The liberation comes when you realize that the energy you spend maintaining the masks is the same energy that could be used to build a life you don't need to escape from. When you stop trying to be who you think she wants and start focusing on becoming more of who you truly are, a strange alchemy occurs. Your flaws, the very things you tried so hard to hide, become intriguing facets of your unique landscape. Your contradictions become evidence of a complex inner world. Your unapologetic passions, even the strange and unusual ones, become beacons, attracting those who resonate with your true frequency. Imagine a crowded marketplace filled with vendors hawking identical wares, their voices blending into a monotonous din. Then, in a quiet corner, you find a stall unlike any other. The objects on display are strange, unusual, perhaps even a little unsettling. But they have a history, a story etched into their very surfaces. They are authentic. Which stall are you more likely to remember? Which one sparks your curiosity? So, here is my unsettling question for you, whispered into the echoing halls of your own self-perception. How many masks are you wearing right now? And more importantly, who are you beneath the collection? Are you brave enough to let them see the museum after dark, when the lights are low and the shadows dance with the unvarnished truth? The pain of being unwanted is the secret ingredient that turns leaden neediness into golden self-possession. I'm going to tell you a secret now, a genuinely dangerous one. It's It's a truth so potent that entire industries of therapy, of entertainment, of pharmaceuticals are built on ensuring you never discover it. The secret is this: your pain, especially the searing, ego-dissolving pain of rejection, is not your enemy. It is your inheritance. It is your forge. And they have taught you to fear it, to numb it, to run from it. Because a man who is no longer afraid of being hurt is a man who can no longer be controlled. We are raised on a diet of comfortable lies. We are told that the goal is happiness, a state of pleasant, uninterrupted contentment. We are sold a vision of love as a gentle harbor, a safe port in the storm of life. It's a lovely, comforting bedtime story. And it is as nourishing as cotton candy. The truth, the one you feel in your bones, on the third sleepless night after she's gone, is far more grotesque and far more magnificent. You are not a ship seeking a harbor. You are a piece of lead, heavy with impurities, with neediness, with fear, with the desperate clawing desire to be completed by another. And love, or rather the loss of it, is not a harbor. It is the alchemist's crucible. Rejection is the fire set beneath it, cranked to an impossible temperature until you begin to melt. Oh, you thought the universe owed you a soulmate? Adorable. You believed that if you were just a good guy, you would be rewarded with a smooth, painless journey into her arms? How utterly quaint. The universe is not a benevolent guidance counselor. The universe is a blind, drunken, and occasionally brilliant alchemist, and it has just thrown you, in all your leaden mediocrity, into the fire. This is the first stage of the great work, the one the old masters called the negredo, the blackening. It is a process of putrefaction, of absolute decomposition. It feels like death because it is a death. It's the death of the weak, smiling, supplicant boy who thought his worth was something that could be given to him. It is the acid bath of loneliness, the grinding pestle of obsessive thoughts, the relentless flame of humiliation. Every part of your carefully constructed ego, the charming persona, the intellectual vanity, the desperate hope, is dissolved. It all burns away, leaving nothing but a black, toxic, horrifying sludge at the bottom of the crucible. This is the moment of maximum despair, the point where you look at the blackened remains of your heart and see nothing of value. This is the abyss Nietzsche warned you about. Modern psychology has a sterile name for the recovery from this state: post-traumatic growth. A term so clinical it bleeds all the terror and majesty from the experience. The alchemists knew better. They knew this black sludge wasn't a failure. It was prima materia, prime matter, the primordial, undifferentiated substance from which gold could be made. You cannot turn lead into gold. You must first destroy the lead. You must unmake it, break it down to its essential, chaotic potential. This is the cosmic punchline. The moment you feel most worthless is the moment you are most ripe for transformation. The confidence switch doesn't flip when you get the girl. It flips when you are staring into that crucible of your own making, at the charred remains of the man who needed the girl, and you make a conscious choice. The choice to stop mourning the lead and to start working with the darkness. This is the meaning of the ancient command: solve et coagula, dissolve and coagulate. You have been dissolved. Now, you must gather the ashes. You must rebuild yourself, not from the blueprint of her desires or society's expectations, but from the grim, hard-won wisdom of the fire. The man who emerges from this process is different. He doesn't carry the light, easy confidence of the boy who has never been burned. He carries the quiet, unshakable gravity of a thing that has been through hell and has been reconstituted. His self-worth is no longer contingent, no longer a flimsy structure dependent on external validation. It has been forged in the solitude of the negredo. He has faced the ultimate rejection and discovered, to his astonishment, that he survived. He found that his own soul was the only witness he ever needed. and that is the philosopher's stone. That is the gold. It is an inner state of self-possession so absolute that the presence or absence of another person ceases to be the defining axis of your reality. Women sense this on a level that bypasses logic. They are confronted with a man who does not need their light because he has learned to glow in the dark. He is not bitter. He is not reactive. He is simply complete, and the fear of losing him becomes acute. Because they instinctively understand they are in the presence of something rare and unbreakable, something that was paid for with a price they cannot comprehend. So let me lean in close and ask you this, with all the accusatory intimacy of a fellow survivor, that old pain you carry around, that rejection, that heartbreak, that wound you've polished with your stories of victimhood until it shines like a martyr's badge. You're still clutching it like a holy relic, aren't you? Terrified to let it go because you're afraid to find out who you would be without it. To regain your kingdom, you must first learn to be sovereign over a single silent room. There is a legend, whispered in no book you will ever find, about a king who grew weary. He was a good king, a powerful king. His kingdom was vast, his treasury full, his court a kaleidoscope of beautiful, intelligent, and ambitious people. Every word he spoke was recorded. Every meal was a performance. Every relationship was a strategic alliance. He was the most powerful man in the world, and he had never, in his entire adult life, spent a single hour truly alone. His crown was a cage, his throne a gilded prison. He was the master of everything, and the sovereign of nothing, least of all himself. So one night, he did the unthinkable. He took off the crown, folded his velvet robes, and laid them on the cold stone floor of his chamber. He walked out of the castle, not as a king, but as a man. He walked for days, until the sounds of his kingdom faded into the whisper of the wind, until he found a derelict stone hut on a forgotten mountainside. And there he began his true reign. This is the final truth, the one that synthesizes all the others. It is the end of the chase, the abandonment of the performance, the final alchemical step. After you have stopped starving for applause, after you have let your ghost haunt her machine, after you have taken off the masks and survived the fire of rejection, there is only one thing left to do. You must go into exile. This is not the bitter, resentful exile of the deposed. It is the chosen, deliberate exile of the philosopher king. Your kingdom is not some plot of land. It is the skull-sized palace of your own consciousness. And for years, you have let it fall into ruin. Its halls are filled with the shrieking ghosts of past anxieties, its throne room occupied by the tyrannical whims of your ego, its courtyards littered with the cheap trinkets of external validation. You have been a tourist in your own mind, a frantic host trying to please guests who will always, eventually, leave. To become king, you must first clear the palace. You must embrace a solitude so profound it frightens you. Not the sad, passive loneliness of the man with no options, but the active, roaring silence of the man who is choosing himself over the noise of the world. Your single room, your Spartan apartment, your quiet corner of the world, this becomes your hermitage, your training ground, your fortress. The Stoics called it the inner citadel. It is the one place in the universe you can make truly your own. At first, the silence will be deafening. It will feel like a failure. Every instinct, conditioned by a world of constant distraction, will scream at you to pick up your phone, to seek a conversation, to find a distraction, to fill the void. This is the withdrawal. This is the moment the ghosts in your palace realize their host is no longer serving them. You must sit with this discomfort. You must let the silence press in on you until it cracks you open. And then, a new kind of perception is born. You learn to find richness in simplicity. The act of making a cup of coffee becomes a ritual, a meditation. The act of reading a book becomes a conversation with the dead. The act of sitting still and watching the light change in the room becomes a profound spectacle. This is the lesson of the Knight of Faith, the Kierkegaardian ideal: to find the infinite in the finite, to find an entire universe in a grain of sand, and a kingdom within four walls. You are no longer chasing what destroys you. You are building what sustains you. The energy that once went into crafting the perfect text message now goes into mastering a skill. The desperation that fueled your need for her attention is now channeled into the unwavering focus required to build a body, a business, or a piece of art. You are not doing these things for her. You are not doing them to win her back or to make her jealous. That is still the logic of the hunger artist. You are doing them because the king has returned to his kingdom, and there is work to be done. This is the state that radiates a power more potent than any display of wealth or bravado. It is the dangerous confidence switch in its final terrifying form. When a woman encounters a man who is a true sovereign of his own solitude, she is faced with an existential anomaly. He does not need her to feel like a king. His happiness is not a project for her to manage. His emptiness is not a void for her to fill. He is a completed world unto himself. His presence is a gift, not a plea. His attention is a choice, not a desperate bid. And his departure is not a threat, but a simple return to his own center. The fear of losing him becomes the fear of losing a rare glimpse into a world of profound self-possession, a world she may not have known was even possible. It inspires in her not the desire to control him, but the desire to build her own kingdom, to become a sovereign in her own right. And that right there is the fragile, fleeting hope of a connection that is not about two halves making a whole, but about two wholes choosing to walk together for a while. The king in the legend never returned to his old life. He didn't need to. Messengers would occasionally seek him out, finding not a withered hermit, but a man radiating a quiet power they had never seen in the gilded halls of the castle. He was more of a king in his simple hut than he ever was on his throne. He had regained his kingdom by abandoning it. So the doors to your exile are open. The silence is waiting. The mountainside is yours to claim. The only question left is, are you man enough to walk through them alone?